Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to day 2 of Reset Connect. We'll try that again. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to day 2 of Reset Connect. Hey, crowd goes wild. There we go. My name's Dan Russell. It's a genuine pleasure to be here. I'd like you to join in a little test for me, if you could. Could you please circle your right foot in a clockwise direction? Think about that clearly, clockwise direction. If you're injured, disabled, or chronically miserable, you don't have to join in. But please circle your foot in a clockwise direction, and then without thinking about it, draw a big 6 in the air in front of you. That is why most of you should probably getting financial advice. Thank you very much. It's been amazing. I'm off. Cheers. The human brain does funny things. It makes you act in different ways when you're not thinking about it, and when you are thinking about it, you rationalize things, and then you end up doing things differently anyway. And it's part of the reason why most people are terrible when it comes to money. Because it's got nothing to do with numbers, and it's got nothing to do with the technicalities. It's got everything to do with human emotions like fear and greed and apathy and shame. And it makes it incredibly difficult for us to engage with it. I have been tasked with asking the question, why don't more consumers engage with sustainable investing? Because if there's one thing that we know for certain, there's a whole raft of money out there that could be deployed to grow the green economy, which is what this conference is all about, obviously. But I'm afraid it's the wrong question. It's the wrong question because there's loads of other questions that come before it. Like, why don't people engage with their money full stop, let alone end up investing it sustainably? So let's play a bit of a guessing game for a while. Wake you up in the morning, see if anybody can guess some statistics. I've got a statistic here, 8.7%. Anybody know what that refers to? He does, but he can't tell. Somebody may have heard me ranting about this yesterday. 8.7%, yes. Ooh, interesting. Number of people who say they feel financially literate. No, we'll come on to that. But 8.7% is the number of adults in the UK who purchase financial advice. So 8.7% of adults in the UK are benefiting from financial advice. The rest of them are out there on their own. In the US, that number is around the late 30%. In France and Germany, it's in the mid 20%. In Canada, it's in the mid 30%. In the UK, we are uniquely disengaged with financial advice, but also with our money in general. What percentage of adults in the UK do you think own a form of unregulated high-risk investment? I'm thinking here cryptocurrency, or a fine wine collection, or a Bolivian shipwreck fund that somebody sold them on the internet. 2%. Bear in mind, 8.7% are purchasing financial advice. 8.4%, almost as many, own some form of high-risk, unregulated investment. What proportion of adults in the UK do you think own a stocks and shares ISA? 17% of adults in the UK own a stocks and shares ISA. However, in comparison to that, how many do you think own a cash ISA? So bear in mind, at the moment you get roughly £20,000 a year to be able to shield away from the government. You can put some into a cash ISA if you want. You can put some into a stocks and shares ISA. What proportion do you think? 17% in stocks and shares ISAs. 40% is the suggestion. 37%. Boom. 37% are in a cash ISA. Bear in mind that over the last 10 years, most of the rates on those cash ISAs have meant that you have lost money over that period of time relative to the cost of living. That we have a problem in the UK not just with disengagement with our money, but we have a significant problem about what some people would call risk and return. I don't like that concept. I prefer the idea of we have a problem with missed opportunity in the long run due to fear and greed colliding in the decision-making process. Of the pots of money in the UK owned by all the individuals out there that are £10,000 or above. So you're doing okay relative to most people, but you've got £10,000 that you could invest, or it's in a bank account. How much of it do you think is in cash? 50, 10, 75? Where do you think we are? 80? It's not that bad, but 61% of all the money above £10,000 held by individuals in the UK is held in cash or predominantly in cash. Again, we are phenomenally, on the one hand, risk averse, or we are opportunity light, depending on how you look at it. Okay, if people aren't investing their money through their ISAs that they hold, we'll get them in the workplace where they've got their pensions. And we've had auto-enrollment brought in by the government to make sure that everybody gets put into a workplace pension unless they default out of it. How many adults in the UK of working age do you think don't have a pension? 35% are actually going, oh, well, this time I'm going for a hard figure this time. How many hundreds of thousands or millions do you think don't have a pension of working age in the UK? 8.7 million adults in the UK of working age do not have a pension. Bear in mind that that is basically free money that they're giving up because you're not paying tax on the money that you're then putting into your pension that you are then growing for the future. 8.7 million people with absolutely nothing set aside in retirement in a pension. And everybody in the room, I think, will be engaged enough to know where the state pension is heading to at the moment and over time. It is not going to provide people with the retirements that they are expecting. Equally, that's 8.7 million people whose savings and tax-exempt earnings are not going in there that could be deployed into something else. How many people it's not just investing, by the way, that we have a problem with here. It's everything to do with money. Everything to do with money. 7 million people do not shop around for their insurance every year. They just auto-renew. And they're getting absolutely rinsed by the insurance companies as a consequence. But they're just 7 million people totally disengaged. I know I need house insurance and car insurance. I'm just pressing go. Over 10 million people in the UK regularly now purchase using deferred credit payment. So Klarna, buy now, pay later, paying in 3-month installments. Buy this immediately off Amazon Prime, but you don't have to pay straight away. That statistic rockets to over 40% of single parents are using it every month in order to make regular purchases. This is an incredibly expensive way of getting credit. It's rocketing the price of things, and it's incredibly expensive over the long run in terms of what you're paying for things. What proportion of people who actually own a mortgage, they hold a mortgage in the UK, do you think can define what standard variable rate means? And bear in mind, these are not people who are aspirational homeowners. These are the people who've got a mortgage in the UK. 12% of the people who own that product can tell you what the standard variable rate means. And it goes on in terms of other things associated with money. Only 7% of adults can tell you what a lasting power of attorney means. And this is not just about disengagement and understanding. It is backed up and it is compounded by shocking financial literacy in the UK. And by financial literacy, I'm talking about what does interest mean? How does compound interest work? What would you be paying on this particular card or on this particular debt if you've got this percentage rate on it? Standardized OECD testing across multiple westernized economies shows that the UK is an absolute laggard. Let's go through them all. A quick geography quiz for you on the left-hand side. The flag is Hong Kong, where 56% of people will pass as capable on an OECD test. And then we've got Canada. 50% of people will pass. Anybody want to go for the third one? Belgium. 44% of people will pass, and the UK lags right behind. There's loads of others in this list. The UK lags behind at 32%. We are not just disengaged, we're actually utterly ignorant about most of the issues when it comes to personal finance, money, how it works, and even the simple things like the magic of compound interest over time. That 32% figure, however, is the average. It gets much worse in certain other demographics. And it is empirically evidenced. It is worse for women than it is for men. There's less financial literacy and less financial engagement, which leads to things like the gender pensions gap, where the average pension pot held by a woman is significantly lower than it is by men. It is worse dependent on your educational attainment and your income brackets, and it's worse in different ethnic minorities. If anybody wants some bedtime reading on this, I've done it for you, but if you really want to get stuck in, this research document by the London Foundation for Banking and Finance is an absolute worldie. They are a 150-year-old charity with a terribly boring name, but they're focused in on financial capability and financial literacy, and they produce all of this research on the matter. And their research is quite stark. It tells you where the key areas of concern are. They've also got the Young Person's Money Index, which focuses in on 15 to 18-year-olds in the UK. It's the largest study of 15 to 18-year-olds and their attitudes to money. What percentage of them do you think stated this year that they wished they'd been taught more about this in school? 80% of them said that they wished that this had been more prominent on the curriculum, that they'd been taught more about it in school. How many do you think say that their principal source of information is their family? 90%, it's actually 61%. However, if your family don't know what they're talking about, then that's part of the problem. We've got ourselves a vicious cycle of disinformation and wrong attitudes. What proportion of them said that they mostly self-learn online? Now, you'd expect this to be really high. This has fallen, and it's fallen a lot over the last few years. Only 12%. There is a suggestion that the Gen Alpha are walking away from the nonsense that they're seeing on TikTok and online and not engaging with finfluencers from Dubai trying to sell them a Bolivian shipwreck fund. That's to be hoped so. However, this is worrying for the financial services community. What percentage of them do you think said that they would like to get information and learning from a financial services company or a bank? 2%. So they're not looking for that information from financial companies. They're getting it from their family. They wish they'd got it in school, and some of them are looking online, but fewer of them. And this is how we're going to be effectively tackling the future problem that we've already got from the information we saw earlier. And recently, literally out last week, research into young people's adoption and use of cryptocurrency and digital assets, and by this I mean cryptocurrency, non-fungible tokens, wallets or gaming tokens of some description. What percentage of 15 to 18-year-olds do you think have engaged with those assets? That they've owned some in their lifetime? 27% of 15 to 18-year-olds have gone down that road. In the United Kingdom, whether you are a 15 to 18-year-old or you are about to retire or you are starting out in your adult life and workplace or you are sandwiched between your elderly parents and your grown children, we have a significant problem when it comes to financial understanding, knowledge, learning, and education. You could argue that if you wanted to, you could take all those words and you could say that what we need to do is get Funkled, ladies and gentlemen, which is the name of the business that I have founded very, very recently. And Funkled exists to provide jargon-free learning to those who want it entirely free at the point of consumption, with planning tools that allow you to assess your financial situation and then plan to do something about it with absolutely no products attached to it and no costs attached to it whatsoever. The website is live now. The learning aspect and the planning aspects launch in the next couple of months. I am evangelizing out there in the world about the financial capability crisis that's coming our way and urging people to do something about it. You can go in there and you could take a look at, say, I want to learn about compound interest. I want to learn about how a bank account works. But if you don't know what you need to know and you are newly financially single, of which there's a lot of people in the UK, or you are thinking about retiring, or you're just starting out adulting, there's a set learning program that you can go through based on your circumstances. Think Duolingo, but for your personal finances. It's available online in very simple, bite-sized, easy-to-eat chunks and on your phone. And it's also available for businesses and organizations to engage with themselves. You can have your own version of it, branded as you wish, with your own content put in it to engage employees or clients, depending on how the organization wants to work. Enough of the advert. Back to the question in hand. Why don't people engage with sustainable investing? It is undeniable that there is a vast swathe of assets out there that could and should be deployed in order to grow the green economy, in order for people to be able to express their views of the world with their money, but we are uniquely disengaged in the UK. So challenge 1 is to increase the financial capability of people in the UK. Challenge 2 is then financial capability is not just knowing what you didn't know, it's knowing what you can go and do about it as a consequence. So giving people the knowledge and then telling them what the options are and giving them access to the answers. In order to help with that program and that challenge, I was asked by the beautiful people of Reset Connect, could we curate some conversations throughout the course of the day to discuss this? So downstairs on the Finance and Investment Hub throughout the rest of the day, you're going to hear from some financial advisors about what it's like to get financial advice and how they deal with people who want to translate their worldview into how their money is deployed. You're going to hear from people who research investment opportunities and people who build portfolios utilizing sustainable investment solutions and help to grow the green economy and deploy assets in that way. All of it done in a very jargon-free way that's going to cut out through all of the acronyms and industry noise and get straight into what it means for real people making those types of conversations and choices. The ability to get private capital of the average man and woman in the UK deployed into growing the green economy is not going to happen until we increase the financial understanding, knowledge, learning, and education of millions. It's not going to happen until we let millions of people get funkled. Ladies and gentlemen, my name was Dan Russell. I hope you have a fantastic day. It's been emotional. Cheers.